show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's August 5th, 2021. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by Matt Shodell, our managing editor, and we're talking about the news of the day. And day before training camp, exciting time. Been spending some time working on NIL deals and stuff with some Miami players, and I'm starting to feel, Matt, the excitement around the whole program just to get going on Friday with training camp. And your thoughts on that before we get into the stories.
I mean, I'm more excited than probably the players. I mean, we haven't been on campus to watch a practice, it feels like eons. So, I mean, just get back out there and watch the kids run around and see who looks good and, figure out the depth charts, to start off the camp's always fun. So, I mean, it's excitement all the way around. I think fans should be excited too. It'll be a great insight into the program getting back out there again.
And Manny's been making some noise about letting us see some extended viewing periods of practice. It's at least in the first few days. So we'll see what happens, but it'll be fun, like you said, to be back out there after the COVID experience of a year ago, and then hopefully this Delta variant gets nipped at the bud here soon, because that could have repercussions not just in us watching practice, but it could have repercussions in terms of fans at games this fall and things like that if this continues. So it'll be interesting to see.
Forget fans at games. I mean, if a few players get it and the position groups have to be quarantined for any period of time, you miss even 4 or 5 practices in the fall, beginning with Alabama. Yeah. Like, they better make sure everything's, buttoned away and that these guys are good to go, because even with double vaccines now, people are getting it. So yeah, it's a little hairy. You got to hope that it doesn't disrupt Miami's preparations for the biggest opening game that they've had, facing basically the number 1 team in the country in forever. So yeah, they got to keep that away for sure.
Well, I meat what we last heard was that about 85% of the team was vaccinated. I don't know if that's gone up in recent days or not, but I thought that was at least a good start. But like you said, it's being found that there's nothing that's good enough for this variant that is just annihilating the country right now. So yeah, it'll be something that we'll have to watch throughout the fall, and certainly once the games begin. And it will be interesting to see if it does impact the protocols and plans for fans at the stadium this year, and whether they decide to dial that back and limit the crowds. Right now, they're selling tickets like there are no limitations, but they haven't made any announcements yet about exactly what the deal is going to be on game day. And I'm sure that's on purpose. They're trying to stay flexible and make sure that they have all their bases covered before they just say it's all wide open. And of course, Dade County has a say in that as well. All right, let's talk a little bit about the news of the day. And since we started out on football, we might as well stay there right now. We have a Real Talk analysis by T. Frank on Charleston Rambo. And, you've seen his evaluations in past weeks on recruits. This one is on an active player. But it's really interesting because, to me, Rambo is really one of the keys to the season this year, Matt. I mean, if you look at it, they brought him here for a reason. And even though there are 12 receivers on the roster, they clearly did not feel that they had a clear-cut number 1 go-to guy. Mike Harley kind of evolved as that the second half of the season last year, but now everybody knows about Mike Harley, and they're going to be looking for Mike Harley, and they're going to be game planning for Mike Harley. And Rhett Lashley clearly felt like he needed another weapon on the outside. It was proven that he doesn't know what he is going to get from D. Wiggins, from Mark Pope, Peyton, Michael Redding. I mean, you could go on and on. Like, they don't know what they're getting from so many of those kids. That's why, Matt, he went to get Charleston Rambo.
Yeah, as weird as it sounds, there's a lot of question marks, right? You lose Brevin Jordan. Will Mallory has been banged up. This is going to be his first real number 1 role, so you don't really know for sure. I think he's going to be great, but you don't know for sure. Mike Harley, the first half of last season, was a non-factor completely, and then the last 6-7 games, obviously, he was amazing. So that all clicked. I expect that to continue. Great. But you're right. Like, who else on offense right now besides Mike Harley isn't a question mark? We just mentioned the tight ends. The two other starting receivers last year, totally inconsistent, dropped a lot of passes right in their arms. Then you have D'Eriq King, who's a question mark just because of his injury. So, I mean, yeah, Charleston Rambo needs to step up, or some guys that are younger like Keyshawn Smith, or somebody's got to step up. It can't be the Mike Harley and D'Eriq King hypothetically on 1.5 leg show this year. There's got to be not just Rambo, but there's got to be 2 or 3 other guys, and that's how you make a great offense when the defense really doesn't know what you're going to do or who's going to get the ball. I mean, I think the running backs should be pretty involved in the passing game hopefully this year also, a little more than last year. They both showed, all 3 of them showed at times they can really make plays down the field with the ball in their hands. Like I think there was one bust where Jalen Knighton had an 80-yard touchdown. If I remember correctly, there was another big play for either Chaney or Cam Harris in the receiving game. So, those are other weapons in the receiving game. And those guys are, to me, proven. So I should point that out too. The running backs are proven in my mind. But yeah, the receiving game, they need some guys to step up for sure. Rambo, I think, will be one.
I'm really hoping this is the year that Keyshawn Smith gets unleashed as well. When you talk to the people out there in California, they really felt like this kid can be an impactful player at Miami, and he hasn't really gotten the opportunity, Matt, to do that yet. And I really hope that this year we see a little bit more of Keyshawn Smith, because in the flashes that we've seen, he's shown some ability. I hope that he's pulling it all together. And of course, that quest for him will begin in training camp on Friday. So we'll see what happens there. And that'll be something that we'll be watching all through the spring. And in the next couple of days, we'll be talking about more things that we're going to be looking at throughout the fall. Rather, I said spring, but throughout the fall as we cover training camp. All right, some other stories on the website today. A couple other things football related. Our 2021 preview series continues this morning with a look at Duke. Matt, one of the teams that figures to be one of the easier outs on the schedule this year based on what we saw of them last year. I can't imagine that David Cutcliffe has been able to pull it all together here in 8 months.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned yesterday morning, the Coastal is really just not good. I mean, outside of UNC and Miami, as you go through and look at all of our stories on the other Coastal teams, they have massive holes, compared to Miami and North Carolina, massive. On paper, I don't think any of them will give Miami a challenge. It's just my opinion. I don't think Florida State will give Miami a challenge either. I think it's a very easy schedule outside of playing North Carolina, maybe NC State and Alabama, obviously. So, I mean, things are shaping up really well for the Hurricanes. As you go back and look through all these preview stories, and you obviously you guys know what Miami has back. You can see, these should not be teams that can compete with Miami. If Miami is well coached, plays the way it's supposed to play, doesn't make stupid mistakes, just does what they're supposed to do, they'll win those games.
All right, and we also have a really cool piece that was put together by the ACC Digital Network for us, taking a look at the quarterbacks in the ACC and getting different comments and things from different people throughout the conference. And so we got that on the website this morning. I think you'll enjoy taking a look at that. And of course, we're not ignoring recruiting. Can't do that. So we've got a couple recruiting stories on the site this morning. The first that we'll talk about is outside linebacker Devin Jackson from Omaha. He's kind of been on the radar for a while. Miami seemed to lose touch with him for a few weeks. Now they're back in touch. Matt, they seem to be struggling to figure out what they want to do at linebacker. I mean, that's kind of obvious. But Coach Patke has been making a concerted effort here in the last week or so to reconnect with Devin Jackson as the coaches came back from vacation.
Yeah, I mean, we've touched on this before. You can't just drop kids. It doesn't make sense to me to do that ever. I mean, because you don't know what's going to happen. You think somebody's coming, and you drop a kid, and then all of a sudden the kid's not coming, and now you go back to the kid and be like, "Oh, sorry, we really need you." It doesn't work, So there was a couple of weeks where Devin Jackson didn't hear from Miami. It's water under the bridge. He sees the opportunity at Miami, and he wants to take some official visits in the fall. We'll see where it goes, but yeah, I mean, Miami needs to stop going these. It happens every year with multiple kids. 2-3 weeks they don't hear from Miami, even sometimes a couple of months, and then all of a sudden Miami calls again. I just, I know there's only so many hours in the day, but you gotta, make these kids feel the love throughout. especially the ones aren't committing right away. You don't have to say, "Oh, sorry, we can't take you." Like, just stay in touch with them, and that's all. Check in. It's just even a text. Hey, thinking of you. We still need you. Whatever. So so hopefully they learn some things from that, because you can't just drop kids and then come back. It hasn't worked in the past.
It's brutal for college football coaches, and they really don't get time off. You could say, "Oh, I'm taking a few weeks off, and I'm totally cutting the cord, and I'm going with my family and doing this or that." But if you do that, like what you're talking about right now, the kids that you're recruiting are going to fall by the wayside. And during this vacation period in the month of July, as coaches around the country, really, not just Miami, we're trying to fit vacations in. The ones that kept recruiting while they were literally on vacation are the ones that were getting a lot of commitments in July and keeping the momentum going. The ones who didn't do that are coming back here. The last week of July, there was a 1 week open period of recruiting that was crazy again, and now you're trying to build the momentum one more time. So Devin Jackson was a kid that seemed to be a little bit on the back burner for a few weeks for whatever reason, whether it was that he really was on the back burner or whether it was just coaching vacations that kept him from being in regular or daily contact with Coach Patke and Coach Ish and anybody else that's recruiting him. But I guess the story, and you can read it this morning and get the full update, is that Miami is back on Devin Jackson, and Devin Jackson has mutual interest, and we'll see how that develops here as the fall goes forward. All right, another recruiting story is on linebacker Grayson Howard. Interesting. He's from Jacksonville. He's a 2023 linebacker. So again, you're starting to see, linebacker recruiting. They're trying to pick it up, getting ahead here. 2023 kid from Jacksonville. He received an offer recently. So we give you an update on where things stand with him. For those of you that might have missed the Leonard Taylor blog yesterday, it's still on the website there. You'll be able to find it easily. And make sure you take a look at that. It's one of the better content pieces certainly of the month, maybe even the year. We've gotten tremendous feedback from all over about it. People outside of Miami looking at it and wanting to see it emulated with their players because of the way that Leonard Taylor was presented and packaged. And listen, this is all about brand building for these kids. We're trying to help in that regard. And if we can take a kid like Leonard Taylor and help him tell his story better and present it in a good, entertaining fashion, which I hopefully you feel we did that with this debut blog, it's a win-win for everybody. So if you missed it yesterday, make sure you take a look at that. All right, that's going to be it for today. Tomorrow morning, we'll be back at you, and we'll probably spend the entire Good Morning CaneSport show giving you things that we're going to be looking for when we go out to practice tomorrow night. Oh, wow. That's like really feels good to be saying that. We're going to practice tomorrow night. So it's coming quickly, folks. We're looking forward to it. Hope you are too. If you're not a subscriber to CaneSport.com, listen, we just put up an offer that we hope that you really can't refuse, because our goal for this year, with everything that we're doing with the team, having De'Ara King coming back, opening with Alabama, the hope of a good season in the ACC, our goal is to bring the Canes Nation together in our CaneSport community. And it's a fun community when everybody behaves. And hopefully there'll be a lot to talk about this season. And we're going to be covering it like never before. And I think you'll be happy if you take advantage of, for new subscribers, you get 80% off the first year. So it's the year 2021. The subscription is $20.21 for this year. It's year 31 of CaneSport. I hope you'll join us. So that's going to be it for today. For Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman, and we'll see you tomorrow, everybody.